Welcome back everybody. This is Wilder Action, Birds and Bees, and today I'm here to discuss something I didn't really want to do. I got angry about this months and months ago. I let myself calm down because I don't think it's right to just do things off the cuff when it comes to things like this. I do love Canon cameras, but I will probably never own the Canon Mark V Mark II, and that's because Canon, don't know how to word it, not did me badly. Their service centre really done a job on me, and it has really put me off buying any more Canon gear. I'm not saying this to put people off buying Canon, and again, I'm not saying it because I don't like Canon cameras. I own this Canon Mark V for roughly around about 4 years, and this was my go-to camera for everything, especially insects in flight and birds in flight, but mainly insects in flight, because that's what I concentrate on. But like I said, Canon has really wound me up with something, and I think it's only fair that you guys know the truth why I won't buy any more Canon gear for now. I don't know how long I'm going to stay this angry, but it's probably going to be a few years yet. I'm loving Nikon at the moment, as you know. I am brand loyal in a way, but I'm not. At the end of the day, I buy the gear that best suits my needs at the time that I'm shooting. I'm going to start off by saying about this camera, I loved it. I loved at the time that it had this flip out screen so that I could protect it from myself. I like to protect cameras from me because I'm very clumsy. So that was a good way to do that. I've had the eyepiece pretty much disintegrate on me, as you can see here. It's not an easy fix, where the old ones used to flick that off and put a new one on. The body, considering how much I use my gear, I don't know if you can see this here, it's lost paint there. It's lost paint in a few different places, but to be quite honest and quite fair to the camera, it has lasted pretty well. This rubberized section here has gone a little bit not glossy. It's not so grippy anymore. It wasn't that grippy to start with, to be honest, but it's really not grippy now. But the grip itself is quite solid, and I feel quite good with that. The pictures it takes were amazing. The only problem I had with this camera, as in two things didn't work properly. One was this trigger here. I don't know if I dropped it on there or something like that. Not this trigger, this dial here. So it would work, but I would have to put more input in to make it work properly, which didn't really bother me. I'm quite quick when using my dials anyway, so it's not a problem to me. But the thing that really stopped me from using this camera as a second camera to my Nikon Z9 was the fact that I had error 20 come up on this camera. For those that don't know, error 20 is a shutter problem, and this obviously is a mirrorless camera. So you think to yourself, well, if I've got a shutter problem and I want to carry on shooting, just switch the shutter off. You know, you can carry on using the camera 20 frames a second, silent mirrorless mode. That's all. I would have dealt with that quite easily. It still shuts down. It still says error 20. The most it'll ever last is maybe 3 or 4 minutes, and the least is about 30 seconds before it starts shutting down. So obviously that was a problem, and I now have the Nikon Z8 as well, so I've got a backup camera, so that's made this even more redundant now. So it got to the point where I was thinking, you know what, the Z8 and the Z9 really do my needs. They have minimal rolling shutter, as I said before, and they work at 20 frames a second the whole time, no matter what lens I put on them. I can now use Canon lenses on them. This is a Canon mount Sigma lens, which I can use on both cameras. I've used the Fringer adapter to do that, so any lenses that I had from Canon I could use on the Z8 and Z9 anyway. Yeah, so I thought, well, let me get this fixed, and then I can still use it as a camera alongside the Z8, Z9, but for maybe different purposes, maybe videoing myself while I'm using those cameras or something like that. I just thought it'd be good to have all three cameras anyway. So I found out where the service centre was in Elstree. This is in the UK. I think it's Hertfordshire. Anyway, I took it down there. I don't like posting my stuff. I hate posting my stuff. So I literally took it down there. They got me on the computer to say to book it in, basically, because you have to book it in before you can get it repaired. And I thought, fine. It was actually really nice. There was a nice lady there that talked me through it, got everything done. I booked it in. She said, what you need to do is you need to put a maximum amount that you're prepared to pay. And at the time, I think I put £300. I thought that should cover a shutter. Hopefully that'll be all right. I leave it with them. I go away. Next day, I get a message from the Canon service centre to say it's going to cost 300 and don't quote me on these exact numbers because I don't want to get this wrong. I've got them indoors, but I can't bother to look for them. Anyway, I think it was £340, not 344, £340, pennies here or there, I don't know. And I said, you know what? Because in the quote they put they were going to fix this eyepiece, they were going to glue some of this rubber down that had maybe not come loose, but was a little bit not as tight as it used to be. They were going to have a general cleanup of the camera as well for the 340, as well as put the shutter in. So I thought, you know what? That's worth it. The camera will come back to me, not brand new, but it will come back to me serviced and everything like that. So I was happy with that. Not more than I wanted to pay, but you have to remember it's an expensive camera. It's worth paying £340 to get it fixed. I thought that's fine. Second hand now, I think you can get these for around about £1,800. I'm not sure what condition, but especially because the Mark II has come out, it's reducing the price of the Mark I. Although I don't know, a lot of people are bad mouthing the Mark II, so it might stay stable. You don't know. Anyway. So then I go about my business, and a couple of days later, I get another message to say there's a problem. Actually, I think they gave me a phone call. And the guy on the other end of the line says, we've put the new shutter in, and it's thrown up multiple error messages. And it's now saying that the motherboard's broken. And I'm like, immediately, I don't know if anyone else would think this, but immediately my head went to, so how much extra is this going to cost? And in my head, I don't know why, I thought to myself, he's going to be talking silly astronomical amounts now, like £700 to just put a shutter in the camera. I wasn't prepared to pay that, but I was just like in my head, rolling my eyes, you know. He then quotes me just over £1,400 to fix that camera. You guys there, I don't know what you're thinking of what I've just said, but in my head just went, and immediately I kind of not got angry, but I was peeved. And I just said to him, excuse me, what? He said, yeah, it's 1,400 to put a new motherboard in and do the shutter and blah, blah, blah. And I said to him, do you know what, my friend? Because you've just really got on my nerves just now. I said, I used to be a service technician for fruit machines and video machines, yeah? And I know this for a fact. If you're telling me the motherboard's gone, you've plugged something in wrong and you've blown up my camera. But do you know what? Forget that, because there's no way I'm paying £1,400. So do you know what? Put the old shutter back in and send the camera back to me. And I said, and you know what? I want it working the same as when I sent it to you. Yeah? So I don't care if it's got the error 20. I want that camera working, because as I said, the camera was working before. I could take photos. Couldn't really do video because it keeps shutting down, but you could take photos with it. So I thought, at least I've got a camera that I can use from time to time if I really need to in a pinch. So he said, oh, yeah, yeah, well, I said, I just can't. I said, I'm going to be writing a letter to your service department. Yeah. So I think at this point, he's just like, well, I've lost him. I might as well just put the phone down. So he didn't slam the phone down on me or anything. So I'm not saying his demeanor was wrong, but the actual actions to me were completely wrong. Yeah. This is over £4,000 camera. And that's what they're telling me. It's £1,800 at the time that I want to get it serviced second hand, and they're quoting me £1,400. Yeah, that just blew my mind. So a few days later, I received the camera back, and do you know what? I had to really laugh when I opened up the packaging. I did send it in with this control ring adapter as well. I didn't have a cap to put on it, so I left that on it, and I had to write that in extra. But I sent in the newer one, not this one, the newer battery. They sent it back to me with one of these older batteries. I was beyond lost with Canon at this point. I'm just like, are you serious? Not only have you, I'm not going to say tried to do me, because I can't really say that they've tried to do me. They've just quoted me an astronomical price for something that's just ridiculous. I'm a bit lost for words to what to say to this. I'm not angry now, but it's all coming back to me. Like that anger that went sky high, it dissipated. But as I'm just recounting this to you, it's really annoying. And anyway, so as I said to them, I'm gonna send a letter to your service department, not your, like the hires that be. I can't remember who I sent it to, but I sent it to the higher people. And to top off everything that's just gone before, the answer I got back was, we're really sorry that you've had a bad experience, but the only thing we can do is to take an extra 10% off your service or your repair costs. So they would have taken whoop-de-doo £140 off of my £1,400 bill. Needless to say, like I said, that is very much probably the last time for quite a few years, especially because the cameras they've just put out, the R5 II and the not 1DX, what's it called? The R1, that's it. Sorry, I'm still thinking in the old DSLR terms. Yeah, especially as the ones they put out, they don't excite me one bit at all. I can't believe they haven't really moved forwards with the camera. Yes, it shoots at 30 frames a second. Yes, it's got pre-capture, which I've told you guys before. I'm not a big fan of pre-capture, especially in a camera that buffers really quickly, because it shuts you down, and then when real action happens, you're stuffed. You've been buffering that whole time. Now you can't release that buffer. So pre-capture for me, I know people keep saying it's a game changer, but that's for people that have got slow reactions in the first place. My reactions are lightning fast. I mean, I shoot insects in flight, so they have to be. So I'm probably catching the stuff they're catching with pre-capture anyway. There are times when I do think to myself, oh, if I'd just been on that trigger half a second earlier. But still, when I've used pre-capture, it's not for me. And the 30 frames a second, like I said, I don't know if I'd use it. It's always good to have as many frames as possible, but it's not a big game changer to me. 20 to 30, not that much. And like most people say, oh, I have to go through a lot. Yeah, you do have to go through a lot. I'm used to doing that, going through a lot and deleting quickly, but it's a lot of frames for buying a new camera. It doesn't really make sense to me. And the dynamic range that everyone keeps going on about, I'm not sure how much that would affect me. I'm used to shooting at high ISO, so I don't know. It might affect me, but anyway, it's not definitely none of those. The R1, definitely I wouldn't buy that camera. I don't know why they didn't make it a high megapixel camera. That might have been a consideration. It probably wouldn't have been after this thing, but you know, that's what I'm looking for, the high megapixels, so that I can crop in. When people say, oh, it's only a good picture if you haven't cropped in, that's absolutely ridiculous, because partly that's why you're buying the camera, to be able to crop in. And yeah, it's just a stupid thing to say. If you all the time say to yourself, I don't need to crop in and everything, you might as well just buy a 12 megapixel camera, because you don't need to crop, right? You don't need a 24 megapixel camera, and you certainly don't need a 45 megapixel camera if you don't need to crop in. You can just buy the highest quality 12, 16, 20 megapixel camera you need. But for me, I would love it if there was a higher megapixel on the Nikons or the Canons. I might one day try a Sony. I think they've got 60 megapixel. But again, I'm about the insects in flight, and I really need to test and see how good a Sony or something like a Fuji, the 100 megapixel, the medium format, would be. I'm all about cropping in. When people say they don't crop in, I think that's rubbish. Anyway, so yeah, that's my story, and it's the truth. This is not made up. This is not clickbait. I was wrangling in my own head whether I should even do this video, because I thought to myself, especially because I'm doing this YouTube channel now, I thought maybe in the future this could come back to bite me in the bottom, because maybe Canon will say something or whatever, but I really don't care. I'm telling you the truth, and I think you guys need to know it as consumers as well. I think it's bang out of order what they've done. I did say to them at the time, because I was angry again, that I've got quite a few followers. I think altogether, I haven't got that many compared to some people. Altogether, on all my social media, I think I have about 40,000 followers, yeah? I'm just giving that message to you so that you understand that Canon aren't about the consumers. I'm not sure if any company is about the consumers. At the end of the day, they're there to make money. But I think that is ridiculous. To somebody that spent absolutely, I must have spent maybe, all told, with all the buying and selling I've done, maybe about £70,000 on Canon gear, maybe more, I don't even know. I don't know how you could possibly tell somebody that £1,400 is a good price to pay for a shutter problem. I forgot to say this, a shutter problem that is quite a common problem in cameras, in Canon cameras. Error 20, you look up error 20 and you'll see down the years, shutter problem error 20 on Canon camera. Yeah, I had to look it up, I had to Google it. Yeah, to me, that should be a recall. And the fact that they're, one, charging me to put a new one in, I was prepared to take that. But then secondly, to put a new motherboard in there because they've messed my motherboard up. And I would like to add this actually. If my motherboard was messed up, why is the camera still working how it was before? That was an even more baffling situation to me. If the motherboard had stopped working and was throwing up all these error messages, how is it possible that the camera is now working with the same error 20 message? I don't get that. Anyway, I'm going to stop ranting because the more I'm talking, the more I'm getting wound up. But I might show you a video of me throwing this in the bin one day. I'm not quite sure. And it will be a truthful me throwing it in the bin and getting rid of it. Because right now, it's not a brick, but it's a brick that's not really doing much. It's not an animated brick. So yeah, rant over. Canon, ridiculous. Give me back my other battery. I don't even want it, to be honest. I've got loads of the old batteries, but yeah, I've got to stop talking. I'm fuming. This is Birds and Bees, Wilder Action, over and out.